She broke her wrist doing her own stunts and still finished the film. In 1972, Raquel Welch wasn't just playing a roller derby queen in Kansas City Bomber. She was one. That wrist brace wasn't a costume. It was proof. It came without warning. By the time you heard it, it was already too late. Japan's D4Y3 Suisei Comet was one of the fastest carrier bombers of World War II. Beautiful engineering. Deadly purpose. Manila never slept. In 1990, this stretch of highway was more than asphalt. EDSA had already swallowed a revolution 4 years earlier. The people who toppled a dictator here still walked it daily. Some roads carry memory. 70 years after ruling the Pacific skies, she still flies. Fifi is one of only 2 airworthy B-29s left on Earth, a bomber that reshaped history, now a ghost of an air force that no longer exists. Some machines outlive their wars. They were handed an experiment designed for their failure. Instead, the Tuskegee Airmen flew 15,000 sorties, destroyed 250 German aircraft, and humiliated every assumption that put them there. By 1948, their wings had cracked open the entire US military. They fought for Italy that had already surrendered. In the winter of 1944, the Folgore paratroopers of the ANR kept fighting, loyal to a collapsing republic, surrounded by a losing war. Some soldiers choose their oath over their odds. The mob didn't just kill them, they ate them. On August 20, 1672, Johann and Cornelis de Witt were torn apart by a Dutch crowd. Their main political enemy, William of Orange, likely gave the nod. Nobody was ever charged. Thousands of miles from home, Russian soldiers stood in Greek mud fighting a war their Tsar was already losing. The 2nd Special Brigade on the Salonika Front, 1916, sent abroad to prop up allies while their empire quietly cracked behind them. They trained in 1940 like men who already knew what was coming. Japan's Special Naval Landing Force, elite, ruthless, and ready. Within a year, these same units would be hitting beaches across the Pacific. The drills were almost unnecessary. 3 girls leaned against a stone older than anyone they'd ever known. Carved in the Viking Age, it remembered Solver, a man mourned by his brother Viben, forgotten by history, preserved by rock. Some grief outlasts every language that once spoke it. Before angels had a name, Assyria already carved them into palace walls. This winged guardian watched over kings for 3,000 years, silent, eternal, unmoved. Every religion that came after borrowed something from what this stone already knew. Behind the Iron Curtain, someone still tended flowers. In a Soviet State Farm greenhouse in Nalchik, workers coaxed color from cold earth while the empire around them ran on concrete and ideology. Even the USSR couldn't quite kill the instinct for beauty. At the edge of the frozen world, a man sat down with a book. George Marston, artist on Shackletoe's expeditions, found stillness in 1907 where survival was never guaranteed. Some people carry civilization with them into places that want to erase it. She stood before a wonder of the ancient world and somehow didn't shrink. When a photographer called Diana the Eighth Wonder, she didn't deflect, she laughed and stepped forward. Even the pyramids hadn't seen charm quite like that before. The desert kept everything. A British Churchill and Italian M1340S, enemies in life, neighbors in defeat, left where they died at El Alamein, November 1942. The battle moved on. The machines stayed, rusting into the same sand together. It needed a push to start a war. Japan's Ki-43 Hayabusa, Peregrine Falcon, would soon terrorize Allied skies across Asia, but first it needed a Huck starter cart just to wake its engine. Even deadly things have humble beginnings. God's door had just been slammed in a king's face. Jean-Paul Laurens captured the moment Robert the Pious was excommunicated, candles snuffed, clergymen turning away, a crown meaning nothing inside that room. In the Middle Ages, heaven outranked every throne. They built a wall in the street and called it freedom. On March 18, 1871, Paris didn't just riot, it declared itself a separate republic. The Commune lasted 72 days. The barricades fell. The idea never quite did. For 144 years, Barcelona lived under a cathedral that was never finished. Gaudí died in 1926, struck by a tram, leaving behind blueprints and a dare. Now the Sagrada Familia nears completion, a dead man's vision finally catching up to reality. They called it a banquet, but it was also a reckoning. In 1925 Paris, World War I veterans with disfigured faces dined together, men society preferred not to see. They sat in full view anyway. Some gatherings are acts of defiance disguised as dinner.